Oh, my bad. All right, we're here in Division One. I haven't been in Division One since I think it was Zandvoort, wasn't it? Apologies for the yawning. It's been a long day, and it's going to continue to be a long one. Check 1 2, check 1 2. It's going to continue to be a long one as naturally the first practice session for the Chinese Grand Prix taking place at 11:30. Fun. 11:30 at night. That is the first round or the first practice session of the Chinese Grand Prix in real life F1. Let's. I tell you what, coleslaw. Yes, sir. I tell you what, I haven't been on a call for Shariah coleslaw in the longest time. Now that I realize it, it feels like it's been forever. Uh, but yeah, it's gonna be a long one. Opening up the Dr. Pepper now. I don't really drink energy drink or coffee, so it's Dr. Pepper for this evening. Now I haven't actually been an F1 fan long enough to see a Grand Prix take place in China, so I'm actually going to try to make the effort to watch this weekend. I mean, I'll watch it either way, whether I fall asleep or not. I'll just turn it on the next morning. Hopefully, I don't get spoiled. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. A sprint race as well, which is a very odd thing to have take place at a track where they haven't raced at in almost 5 years. But either way. So let's see, how many should we have on the grid this evening? I think we should have a good amount. My list says 17. Did they actually open Parc Ferme? I wasn't sure if they had done that or not. That's really good. That needed to happen. I actually didn't know that. Appreciate that for the info. They've needed to do that. Here's an interesting thing. Out of all the leagues I cast, which is 3 or 4 at this point, there is one that does keep Parc Ferme off. That's the Monday League, and I tell you what, it's pretty interesting to see the differences in setups between qualifying and the race. I think having Parc Ferme off is actually not that bad of a thing to have, and especially for the sprint race weekend, man. I mean, that is something that again absolutely needed to happen, so that's good. It is going to be wild, considering now we've got a mess of drivers who have never raced at that track. Let me see if I can remember. Logan Sargent, Guan Yu Zhou, Oscar Piastri as well. Well, I'm missing at least one. Yuki Tsunoda, and there's someone else, hasn't there, who hasn't raced there before? It's not Lando, is it? No, he was a rookie in 2019. George's race there. I don't know. Who's the only other driver that hasn't raced at China? There is, I think, 5 of them. Sargent, I've already said. So the results of the Chinese Grand Prix, let's see. Grosjean was racing. Oh, I think is it Esteban? Esteban wasn't racing at the time, was he? No, I don't think he was. No, in the 2019 Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly and Romain Grosjean were the 2 Frenchies on the grid. So Esteban Ocon, yeah. Esteban, Oscar, Logan, Guan Yu Zhou, and Yuki Tsunoda are the 5 drivers who have not raced there. Wasn't he out in 2019? Yeah, that correct. I'm actually a little surprised that I'm not going to say Ocon was there in 2018. He could have been. I don't know. It's a good point. Let me look that up. That's a good point. 2018 Chinese Grand Prix. Hey, that was won by Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, he was actually. Yes, he was in the Force Indy at the time. He finished 11th, 5 seconds behind Kevin Magnussen for the points paying position. Geez, well, that was we had Stoffel Van Dorn and Sergei Sirotkin on the grid at the time. Goodness me, 2018 feels like, and Marcus Ericsson, don't forget. Brendan Hartley was on the grid as well. My goodness, the amount of changes from 2018 to now. And if I'm correct, this is the first time this season was the first time that I don't think any driver changes actually took place, like from team to team, ignoring Nick DeVries. I think that was the first time in probably, what was it, like 60 something years that had actually happened. So I mean, but we are going to have a couple of changes this next season. Fernando Alonso's going. Well, he's actually staying at Aston Martin. Carlos Sainz obviously doesn't have a job yet. Hamilton's gone to Ferrari, which I find incredible. So, but I find that so interesting as well because there's no way that Ferrari are that prepared for 2026 already, are they? Who I got for the Merc seat? That is a very interesting question because realistically, I think Carlos Sainz probably the right option. I think Carlos deserves either Red Bull, deserves Mercedes. George Russell's going to be there. Maybe Kimi Antonelli, but that would be a bit of a reach. Yeah, I don't think that would happen. He's a good driver for all I can tell, but I don't think he's that good quite yet. Maybe Checo. I think because Mercedes are at the point now where they're not really championship contenders at the point, so maybe that would be a seat for Perez, because at least it could be Valtteri Bottas as well. That would be something I would love to see that, just to be a second driver again to George Russell this next time. That would be so depressing, but I think Valtteri definitely deserved a better send off from Mercedes than what he actually had for all that he did. Um, Maybe Pierre Gasly or maybe Esteban. I don't know. I think it's one of those things. It's like we've got at least one, maybe 2 unhappy drivers at Alpine currently. I mean, how could you be happy with the situation going on there? Esteban, mind you, is part of the Mercedes driver program, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is. Pierre, I think, is too good for the Alpine seat right now, so that's always a guess. I mean, Lando's been locked down to McLaren, hasn't he? See, Lando deserves so much more than the McLaren right now, I think. I could be wrong. I think he's at the point where we can't decide if he's overrated or underrated, really. He hasn't I mean, yeah, he's gotten podiums left and right, but you should expect that from that good of a car, really. And he's botched a win at least on what, 2 occasions. So I don't know. I don't know. Interesting. Well, 15 seconds to go. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Division One clash at the Temple of Speed, the Autodromo Internazionale Monza, here in Italy for the 7th round of the Division One season here in the Midwest Esports League. Hotspot on the call. It's been a little while since I've been here in Division One. The last time I was in Zandvoort. But I mean, when we think of the best circuits in the world, Monza is right there amongst the best of them. And I tell you what, we've got at least 17 drivers on the grid today who know that this track can really provide some of the best action all season long, some of the most unpredictable results as well. So that's always on the cards. We'll take the moment now to look at the drivers and constructor standings. After Qatar last week, Palmer leads Scornsey by 4 points, 310 to 306. Mackey is right in that battle as well, 294. Chuck Blazin further behind at 243. Race day 227 leads Mack by 1 at 226. Callie Robb at 221. And oh, look at this. Hang on just a minute. I will get to that in a second, but we have rain on the grid, intermediate tires from the look of it, which is always interesting because now it comes to the point where setups really begin to start, making a factor here. If we have a qualifying scenario where it's just going to be rain here, but we go to the dry in the race session, we're going to be seeing some drivers with some really interesting choices. Do they put the downforce on now, try to get themselves a good starting spot, or do they hold out on their race setup and maybe qualify a little bit worse, assuming that the race is dry? I have not gotten confirmation on if that's the case or not. What we do know is that this session, at least for the time being, is that of the intermediate tires. That is something I did not see coming, has to be said. So another wrench thrown into the plan of the drivers here tonight. It's going to be that of Dusty Lusky out on track first in his Ferrari. I'll get back to what I was on about with the driver standings. We were with Callie Robb at 221 points, Houdini 211, Gunner 200, and the Plums rounding out the top 10 at 190. It's actually a good battle there between Plums, VTech, and Travis Scott. 8 points separating them. And then an additional 10 back to Edwin there. So, yeah, not all that. I tell you what, we're still relatively early days. I believe this is, the halfway point in the season, roughly. So we're getting to the point now where we should have a feeler at what our standings are going to look like come towards the end of the season. But that's almost never the case when we try to predict things like that. As far as the constructors goes, Alpine is running away with this one. They've got nearly a 100-point gap back to Williams, 553 to 455, the gap there. Aston Martin holding right in that battle at 450. Ferrari 411, Alfa Romeo 391, Haas 356, McLaren 347, Mercedes 336, AlphaTauri 301, and Red Bull 279. So even the Red Bull team right now, I could assume, could have themselves a good day and really make some headway in this battle, but it's going to depend on what they actually accomplish here. I think we do have, I'm just trying to figure out what one driver is missing. What one car? I believe it is the other McLaren, race day 2016, and the lone McLaren at the moment. Unfortunately for him. But what we do have is this. It's going to be Dusty Lusky, the first driver, out on track here for a very interesting qualifying session, this in the wet. Down the pit straight he goes, heading towards the Redifilo chicane, the first chicane here. It's going to be a fun one into that first corner. Well, we almost had... And so... Caesar has been disqualified for blocking the pit lane. He's gone back in towards the path of Chuck Blazin. Now, that was the Mercedes in question that we had seen kind of backed across the circuit there, and I thought he had gotten himself to safety, but he hadn't. He's backed across the front end of the Alpine. Did not see that one coming. Dusty Lusky making his way through the Raggia chicane now in towards Lesmo 1 and 2 coming up here in a second. Unfortunately, I've had to cut away from his lap because of whatever just happened there. So Caesar and Chuck Blazin will be at the back end of the grid to start here. Not ideal, has to be said. Second Lesmo coming up here for Dusty. In the dry, that is actually kind of a difficult corner because you want to push a little bit more wide than you probably should. That exit of the corner does kind of begin to narrow out. In Swords, the Ascari chicane now. This is a corner that has brought about a lot of struggle, a lot of oversteer and spins to be had there on exit. It's got a DRS zone heading in towards it, although you're not really going to get much passing action going in towards Ascari. I'd rather have it going into Parabolica here, the final corner, as Dusty Lusky making his way out. Let's see how he's going to do here. It looks as if he's held okay enough straight line speed across the line. He goes. Top spot immediately done in by VTech, 126.943 for the fastest lap so far. We do now have the pair of the Aston Martins making their way around. We do have, I believe, Travis Scott, who was looking like he was on a halfway decent attempt there. Bit of a wiggle coming out of Parabolica there. Ends up 0.2 of a second behind. I think that relatively could have been a lap for provisional pole. Unfortunately, he's kind of had a bit of an error. Got Palmer 126.147, and that is by far provisional pole now. That is 0.8 of a second clear of VTech. That is a great attempt from the Alpine, and then Race Day immediately outdoes it into the 125s. 125.979 beats Palmer by about 1/10.5 there. And Race Day has thrown his hat into the ring here of really having a go at provisional pole, has to be said. We do now have Shariah Coleslaw making his way to the line, and across the line will go 7th, the slowest of the representative timed laps so far, 2.2 seconds off the pace. It was that of Mackey last time out. Matter of fact, the past 3 rounds in a row, or well, the last 3 rounds that I actually have listed here. If I look at the results screen, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure this out. That looks to me 4 wins in a row. So he won Qatar, he won Japan, he won the Netherlands, and he's won Australia. Mackey is on 4-race consecutive win streak here. I am very interested to see if he can follow it up. Well, he's on his way on a timed lap now, making his way towards Parabolica. He's going to have to get around a 125.9 from that of Race Day if he wants provisional pole at the moment. That's probably what I would believe is going to be one of the better laps we see, because if the rain either gets heavier or starts to get lighter, I mean, that's going to be a whole other thing thrown in there. 126.264 does move up to 3rd for that of Mackey. That's done really well at the moment. Beats that of Scornsey by about a tenth behind Palmer as well. Palmer is making his way out of Parabolica now, I believe. Well, I kind of thought he was going to be coming into the pit lane. That's not the case. Perhaps is he starting another one here? That appears to be the case. So Palmer starting one, making his way down towards the chicane at the beginning of the lap here. Let's see what he's got. Got a little bit of traffic ahead of him, that being one of the Ferrari drivers. He's got the McLaren of Race Day behind him. Now, if Race Day is on a flyer here, that will be very not ideal for that of Palmer, because he's essentially making a little bit of clean air here for Race Day and a bit of that toe. That could prove to be a little detrimental. Race Day's actually slower by about 6/100ths, and Palmer has botched the braking zone going into the Rajia chicane, and that will be the end of his timed attempt. Race Day, however, still has a little bit left here. Granted, he was 6/100ths slower through the first sector. He still has 2 more sectors left to go. Through the second Lesmo, holds it really well, or so I thought. He's gone a little bit too wide off the corner, and it has invalidated his timed attempt. Unfortunate for him, because I was thinking that was going to be a good attempt, and after that he is slower anyways. Round Parabolica now is that of Mackey. I believe he's probably going to be coming into the pit lane here. No, it looks as if he's decided to stay out another lap. So, assuming that this is a representative lap here from Mackey, let's go along with him. Down the pit straight towards the Redifilo chicane. He's got one of the Red Bull drivers behind him. I believe it is that of, well, either one of them making their way on an outlap here. It's going to be that of Cynical. I believe Plums has just gone 8th. 7.5 tenths of a second behind. What I will say is this: the top 8 cars separated by less than 8/10 of a second. That's a pretty good statistic to have. We've got ourselves a lot of competition so far in the early goings. 3/100 slower for Mackey through the first sector. Through the Rajah chicane now. Takes a lot of the curb on the way out. Now, that is kind of what you want to do in the dry conditions. I'm wondering if that's slightly detrimental to take that much curb on the exit. Just because the curbs will not have as much grip, obviously, as the racing surface, and that may send the car, at least for some wheel spin, and never mind perhaps a regular spin on the way out. And that would kind of be my guess. Let's see what Mackey has here at the timing line. Well, apparently I don't know very much because he's quicker by 4/10 of a second through that second sector. Exits the Ascari corners now, down the back straight towards Parabolica. He's got clear track ahead of him for the most part, a Ferrari and an Alfa Romeo. A Scornsy 1:25.734. Now, that lap has somewhat come out of the blue there from Scornsy, has to be said. That's no knock on Scornsy's talent, but being that was what appeared to be a really good lap from Scornsy. Mackey's gone, what has he gone there? 1:25.858. Within 1/10.5 of Scornsy. But I tell you what, Scornsy did not initially look as if he was going to be putting down laps of that caliber. It's been a slightly off season from Scornsy. He's still in the battle for the championship, don't get me wrong. But for the winningest driver in Midwest history, you'd have to kind of think that he's going to be hoping for more here. And for the time being, that's a really good start. 8.5 minutes to go. Palmer has just gone second, 1:25.853. Actually gets Mackey by 4/1000ths of a second. For that second spot. Race day on an outlap now as he follows one of the Red Bull drivers into the pit lane. VTEC not on a timed lap here, really. Mack making his way in towards the Redafilo chicane now. Does the Haas driver have anything here? Maybe a little bit slow going through the chicane, but the most important thing is he's careful, and I say that. He's had a big snap of oversteer coming onto the throttle there. Is still 3/10 of a second quicker through Sector 1, so perhaps as the Haas driver, have something to look for here. At the moment, this will put him about P6. Oh, but that was a big wiggle coming off the first Lesmo there. Yeah, has to be said. That may just put this timed attempt to bed for Mack. That's going to be one heck of a mistake, a costly mistake there, as across the timing line he goes. And is now slower by 2.5 of a second. So unfortunate for Mack there. But he is just one corner away, I would say, from having a very solid attempt. That of Cynical coming around at Parabolica now. 7 minutes remaining here. Down the pit straight he goes. I think it is going to be an improvement for Cynical here. And up to fifth he is. 1:26.427 is now within 7/10 of a second of the top spot. Although he does have 4/10 between himself and Race Day for that second row position. So Cynical, great effort from him. Still, I think, needs a little bit more. Edwin making his way towards the Ascari corners now, though. I don't think this is a timed lap from him. No, 8 seconds slower. We do have Gunnar Addy in the AlphaTauri making his way on an outlap as well. We were just along with, I think it was Edwin. Yeah, Edwin's going to be starting one here. I'm quite curious in what Edwin has to offer. Let's go along with him. We do also have Scornsy on an outlap now, as well as VTEC. Plums, Sweet, and Gunnar all on outlaps now. And Edwin, which I thought was going to be starting another timed lap, has decided to abandon it and come into the pit lane. Gunnar Addy on a timed lap now. Down the pit straight he goes. He's got clear track ahead of him here once he passes the Alfa Romeo and the AlphaTauri to the inside, which he's done. Through the chicane. Has to be said, very calm and collected there, and as I say that, commentary curse strikes as he's gotten very heavy on the throttle, took a quick trip into the grass, and that will most likely be the end of his qualifying attempt. Good news for him, still 5.5 minutes remaining. The McLaren of Race Day coming through the final stages of the lap now. He has invalidated, but he'll be starting a new one here shortly. So down the pit straight goes Race Day. Heading into the first set of corners here. He's got the Williams of Nicky ahead of him. Nicky's on a halfway decent attempt, actually, at the moment. Currently 9th. That'd be a good spot for him. Race Day exits the chicane going through Curva Grande now. Currently P4 for the McLaren driver. Not all that far off the top either. 2.5 of a second. And currently 4/100ths quicker through Sector 1, in through the Rajia chicane now. 5 minutes remaining. Takes a lot of the curve on the outside. That may have been a mistake for him. I'm not quite sure. Looked good, but I'm thinking that first lap may have been slightly more flawless through the second Lesmo. Now this is where he had invalidated this previous attempt. Heading towards Ascari now. I'm quite interested to see what the time difference is going to be. It's going to be a 10.5 quicker for the moment, so that'll move him roughly to that third spot, maybe second, if he's able to put a good effort through Parabolica and across the line. VTech has lost it coming out of the second Lesmo here. Probably just taken too much to the curve on the outside, and that car is flown right down to the right side, and unfortunately that will be the end of the qualifying session for the Haas in question. Race day across the line now, looking a good lap. Provisional pole, 1:25.627. Get Scornsy by a 1/10 of a second there. Race day. I mean, we've got about 3 or 4 drivers, really, who could put that car on pole right now. Race day, Scornsy, Palmer, and Mackey all looking like they've got a fair shot. Mackey making his way through the second Lesmo now. He's gone really wide, matter of fact, but he does have a tow from, well, temporarily from that Mercedes ahead. That was Edwin, and I think that may have helped the Williams driver here. Across the timing line now is actually slower by about a 10.5. Little odd. Where was the mistake made for the Williams? We're not sure. Palmer making his way through Curva Grande now. Scornsy has yet to come back out on track. 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Palmer slower by a 10.5 through the first sector. Through the Rajia chicane, we'll go back with that one in a minute. Dusty Lusky has actually improved on that last attempt by over a second, up to the 7th spot. Edwin currently 8th, Plum's 9th, and Nicky rounding on the top 10, although Nicky on a timed lap now, and he's got a lot of track room ahead of him. With 3 minutes to go here, we are going to be seeing these last attempts come into play here. I have yet to be pinged on whether what the weather looks like for the Grand Prix. Nicky coming out of Parabolica corner now, a little bit of a tow ahead and across the line up to 7th, 1:26.511, improves by a 10.5 there. Does go up to the 7th spot, beats Dusty and Edwin. And Nicky, that's not a bad result for him, but only, is that 11 1,000ths between himself and VTech? He will need, sorry, not even that. What, 9 1,000ths? Nah, maybe I'm wrong. I can't do math. Anyways, very close to that 6th spot. He'll need a little bit more. Palmer making his way in towards Parabolica now, although this is not going to be a lap from him. Mackey has pretty much finished out this attempt here. Perhaps is he just restoring some battery, making his way. Scornsy only going through the Redafilo chicane now. He's got 2 minutes left on the clock here in order to get one more timed attempt going. Mack was faster on that final attempt, on that most previous attempt rather, by over a 10.5. Moves up to the 5th spot. So now we have 5 drivers throwing their hat into the mix for getting this provisional pole spot. Mack, whether or not he's on a timer right now, I kind of doubt. Maybe he's got enough time to get the car back round and start a new one. I would not count out this Haas driver just yet. Nicky looks to have abandoned his lap. He's invalidated either way. We've got the AlphaTauri of Scavney making his way, although I don't believe this is an improvement for him. No, it doesn't appear to be. Gunner's on an outlap now. I'm afraid he may not have enough time. Shariah Coleslaw will have enough time. Minute and 15 to go. I think he's going to be going through final stages of the lap now. Mackey goes down the pit straight. This is his, I would assume, final attempt here. We've got the AlphaTauri behind of Scavney. He'll probably be starting a new one down the pit straight for him. Gunner only going through Rajia now. I don't think Gunner's going to be able to make it. Nicky 64 has decided to retire in the pit lane. We do now have Race Day and Scornsy both on outlaps. Got Palmer making his way down the backstretch. Is not improved. He is waiting for his opportunity. Mackey 2.5 tenths quicker through Sector 1. We'll go with the Williams for now. Exits the first Lesmo clean as you like through the second one now. This is crucial for him. 30 seconds remain. Maybe a little bit tentative getting back on throttle, but that's what you need to do. We've already seen VTech lose it through that section of the track. And so Mackey can't afford to have a mistake now. In towards the Ascari chicane. He's lost about a 1/10 of a second there. Is now only improved by 3 100ths. So Mackey, I would think, kind of on the ropes here. as he makes his way down the backstretch towards Parabolica for what I would assume to be kind of the final time here. I'm not sure he has much more time to put together another timed attempt. As a matter of fact, he will not. This is the final attempt here from Mackey. In front of him, the Mercedes of Edwin will cross the line. And Edwin into the pit lane. Mackey stays out on track. Mackey will go provisional pole. 125.521. Improves by 3.5 tenths, which we initially didn't see happening. AlphaTauri to the outside there. That may not have helped race day keep his focus there. Scornsy 5/100ths quicker through Sector 1. We've got, that was the Ferrari of Dusty Lusky, who may have retired on track coming out of the Scary chicane. Shariah Coastal out of the line, goes 13th. That's all he could do. Plums down the backstretch. Apologies, that was the Ferrari of Dusty had retired in the pit lane, not out on track as initially thought. His teammate of Plums is the one going slowly. Cynical up to the line now, looking like a halfway decent attempt for him. I'm not sure how he'll improve. Only up to 7th, 126.079, 3.5 tenths of a second. Travis Scott has invalidated his final attempt. His qualifying is done. We've had the Haas of Mack only go 5th. Palmer has, I think, lost the car somewhere. He has not improved. His qualifying is over. Scornsy now coming across the line. Does he improve? And he does. Provisional pole 125.491 gets Mackey by 3/100ths of a second. Now does race day have anything? Going through Parabolica for the final time. Palmer into the pit lane. His day is done. Race day now. Does he have the ability to spoil the party amongst the top of the grid and across the line? And he does. 125.360, 2.5 tenths of a second better, and gets Scornsy by 1/10.5. And now we've got less than 3/100ths between second and third. But race day, a commanding pole position there for the McLaren driver. And I tell you what, with the quality of the grid that's going on around him, that one may have been slightly unexpected for the former champion. Not a knock on his talent, but we had 5 drivers in the mix there, all vying for pole, and it ended up being race day. Well, I tell you what, that was one of the more entertaining qualifying sessions I've seen in a good while. Now, race day starting on pole. Will he have the ability? Again, we don't know what the weather is going to be like for the race session. But race day, what he does know for now is that he can rest easy knowing that he's on pole, although rest easy for some, it'd be a little bit of a challenge for others. Race day on pole, 10th.5 between himself and Scornsy. Mackey behind Scornsy by less than 3/100ths for third. Palmer 4th, Mack 5th, Edwin 6th, Cynical 7th, Travis Scott 8th, 9th is the Plums. Rounding of the top 10 is VTech only by 11/1000ths over Nicky. Dusty Lusky 12th, Shariah 13th, Swee 14th. Bit of a polarizing day so far for the Aston Martin brothers. Scavney 15th, Gutter 16th, 8th row lockout for the AlphaTauris. Houdini didn't get a time, Chuck Blazin didn't get a time, and Caesar got disqualified for backing in front of Chuck Blazin, which caused his DNF. So, very competitive grid here. 8 cars separated by a second, 3 cars separated less than 2 tenths of a second. Round 7. For some, the number 7 is lucky. For others, this may be a very interesting Grand Prix to say the least. Again, we don't know what the weather is. We're assuming it's probably going to be dry. And let's see. This is the moment of truth here. Do we get a dry Monza session? At least for the time being, the answer is yes. So now that leaves us in a very precarious position because did we see race day put on a higher downforce setup in order to get a good qualifying position? Will that car be slower in the race in the dry? Very interesting conundrum that. This round sponsored by, I believe, that of Frenchie. I could be wrong. But either way, he's decided to take the place of a real-life Grand Prix session, so big ups to him for donating to the cause there. So Monza this week, Brazil, Miami, Belgium the next 3, and then we head to Italy again at Imola, or sorry, San Marino, whatever you want to say. But Monza this week, Brazil, Sao Paulo, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache for round 8, Miami for round 9, and Belgium, Circuit Spa for round 10. So we've got ourselves 3 very quick tracks here in the up-and-coming races. Brazil, obviously overtaking heavy circuit. Miami, with the aid of DRS, it's a very... I tell you what, the recent races I've seen at Miami, as far as virtually, have been pretty okay, has to be said. Still not better than Vegas, in my opinion, but Miami there, and I think for the time being, at least providing it being a halfway decent race weekend, and then Belgium the week after that, well, there's not much else you could say other than it is Belgium, it is Spa, it is... Well, there's really not much else to say. It is what it is. It is one of the most revered, respected, and feared circuits on the calendar, and we're going to get that. Imola after that, as I've said, that could be a fun one. Imola's provided some halfway decent racing recently. It's one of those tracks that really makes you work for any overtake you get. And then Singapore, the revitalized and refreshed and renewed Singapore Street Circuit in Marina Bay. Which I tell you what, that new layout, very, very exciting, obviously. We've only had the one race in real life at it, but either way, should be still fun. France for the May 30th round. The round I sponsored, matter of fact. Canada, June 6th, penultimate round, and the Red Bull Ring to round out the season. But, once again, race day has the ability here. He's 227 points. Palmer leads the standings at 310. I mean, race day has the ability to really cement himself as a championship contender here. Whether he does that or not is going to be up to him. I think, again, I'm concerned as if he has taken, perhaps a higher downforce setup for the qualifying session in order to get himself a good grid spot. Can he hold on to it? That's going to be the question. And we're just waiting for the formation lap to get underway here. On the eve of the first practice session for the Chinese Grand Prix. Once again, just waiting for the formation lap to begin here. Should be a very fun one tonight. Looks like it's going to stay dry as well, hopefully. Could be wrong. That would always be a good news to have a dry race here. The overtaking will definitely become one to be reckoned with. Should be a brilliant Grand Prix. Hope my phone battery stays good enough to actually have the side-by-side screen here on my phone. That would be definitely helpful. As we're just once again waiting for the formation lap to begin here. And here we go, formation lap on the way. Let's see our tire strategy selected for the evening. Race day on the softs. He's probably looking for that early safety car. Going to play aggressive right out of the gate here. Scornsey on the mediums. Mackey and then Mack. Only the other two drivers on the softs. Everybody else has chosen the mediums, minus that of Nicky, Shariah, and Caesar, who have all taken the hards. So, mediums being the tire of choice here. Only 6 drivers being the outliers. And trying to choose something different. So those being on the hards will probably be at a massive disadvantage off the start here, has to be said. Nicky and Shariah kind of in the heart of the mix as well. Could be difficult. Caesar back into the grid, P19. He doesn't have much to worry about here, despite being this far back. I think even being on the hards may help him in that scenario. But race day, Mackie and Mac, they better hope for a safety car here in the early goings, because if they don't get it, they're going to be behind on the strategy just like that. And that is something I would think they're kind of worrying about, really, because when you don't get that safety car when you start on the softs, and then suddenly the strategy doesn't play in your favor anymore, I mean, it is something to consider. And that's kind of why we've seen so many drivers take the medium tires. It's one of those things where we just see, I would say, mostly the safe route more than anything, has to be said. But race day on pole, again, should race day have a good result today, he could certainly put himself in a position to cement himself as a championship contender here. Currently 5th in the standings, needs a lot. Scornsy, Mackey, Gott Palmer, all the front runners in this championship battle. A lot of implications up for grabs today. Again, next week we head to Sao Paulo for another, overtaking heavy track, one of the classics. One to, I'm sure, provide a brilliant Grand Prix. As race day will line himself up on the grid here. He'll have the outside line heading towards the Redifilo chicane, but if he gets away well, he won't need to worry. The grid is, kind of got enough room into that first corner. And look at this, he's angled himself so far down to the inside. Well, not as really as far as I thought, to be honest with you, but definitely looking to send one here is that of race day. He wants to get across the nose of Scornsy before anything else. And I don't really have a good look at any of the cars in the grid here, as we're just waiting for Caesar at the back end of the grid to make his way here. Shariah and Travis Scott, neither of those drivers get into the grid correctly. And here we go. Lights are going to be turning on here in Monza for the 7th round of the season. Scornsy looks on. Can he get away well? 5 lights, and they are off. And does race day get away? Well, I think he has, but who's gotten away better behind him is that is Mackey. Look at the speed from the Williams around the outside. It's going to be 3 wide into the first corner by all 3 championship contenders. Who has it? This is going to be a tricky one. Race day does escape down to the inside, but race day's had to go over the curb. Mackey will get around the outside in race day's error. Race day will lose 2 spots there as Scornsy takes back the 2nd spot. Race day falls to 3rd as Palmer stays, I think, 4th. For the time being. That was a very calamitous opening corner. Scornsy did the right thing and backed out while he could. If he chose not to, it would have been 3 wide in the first corner, and 3 championship contenders into 1 corner usually doesn't make for anything well. But they've all survived for the time being. We do have Scavney, who, well, I thought he was side-by-side. He's not. Sui a little bit further behind. But we've got ourselves, for the time being, a clean opening lap here. Mack, however, in the Haas, has actually fallen behind the top 5 here and has opened up quite a gap. The battle for the lead now. Scornsy back to Mackey. Mackey on the soft tires. He'll be at the advantage for now, but does he hold on to it? That's going to be the main question. Scornsy going down the backstretch, heading towards the Parabolica, and we do have Cynical off on the gravel, exiting the Ascari chicane there, and I'm thinking maybe as he lost the front wing. No, it's actually still all in one piece, so the track stays green. The Plum's losing spots now, overtaken by both the Haas and the AlphaTauri around the outside. Nicky's gone very wide, going through Parabolica. He's now lost spots to Shariah and Dusty and Scavney. Back with that in a minute. Down the pit straight they go, heading towards the Redifilo chicane. No challenges amongst the front runners here, as they all kind of file on through. The real battle's happening behind as they make their way. Does Dusty Lusky look? Actually, more or less Scavney and Nicky 64 battling Sui side by side, as now we look back up the grid. Travis Scott gets down to the inside of Mack for the 6th spot. And as they make their way towards the Rangia chicane, now Mackey, who I thought would actually have a very better getaway than what he's had here on the soft tires, is only half a second ahead of Scornsy. And being on those soft tires, he's going to have to use that advantage very quickly, or, well, he's going to be behind on tire strategy. And for the time being, Mackey has not gotten away well enough to really warrant those soft tires being used. But now we do have 0.2 of a second here between Mack and Travis Scott as they make their way towards Ascari. Very clean opening lap, aside from Cynical's accident going through Ascari last time by. It appears he's gotten back up and going, and he's not needed to stop for the time being, so all looks good for the time being. Half a second here. DRS will be activated this time by. They'll get it coming out of the second Lesmo. So closest battle now. Mack trying the left side of Travis Scott here, and I think that one's going to be done relatively easily. Mack on the soft tires, not really going to have to worry. Does Scornsy have a look at race of Mackie here? No, chooses not to. Raceday's fallen behind by about a second now over the top two. Remember, he started on pole, tried to go 3 wide into the first corner, outbraked himself into the first part of the Redifilo chicane, had to go into the escape road, and has now dropped to third, but he's not hit anything, and the track stayed green, and he's got himself in a relatively okay position for the time being. He will be pressured by Palmer and Edwin behind, but he doesn't have to worry about that for right now. Mackie does still lead. Through the Lesmo corners they go. Second Lesmo coming up here. This will be the first taste of DRS that the drivers get all day. Rear wing open for Scornsy is closing in. Not really enough to warrant panic by the Williams driver here. As towards Ascari they go. Scornsy's actually narrowed that gap to about 4.5 tenths of a second. Was within about 3 tenths there not all that long ago as they make their way out of Ascari, down the backstretch towards Parabolica. A lot of drivers within just a mere couple of tenths of each other here, but we're going to stay with the battle for the lead for the time being. Does Scornsy have anything? Mackie has gone quite wide going through Parabolica that time. Maybe did that hurt his getaway out of the final corner. Down the pit straight they go. Fourth lap of the Grand Prix underway, and Scornsy now looks in pursuit of the Williams. He may get a good enough run here. He's going to try around the outside, and he's chosen to back out of the position. Palmer has gotten around race day in that time. I thought Scornsy probably could have got away with making that move. Well, a little bit of contact there. We've had the Haas of Mack go into the back end of Travis Scott, and Mack losing positions now both to his teammate of VTEC and also to the Plums here. And I think Gunnar Addy's kind of been held up in that as well. Plum's going to try around the outside of Curva Grande. That's a bold one. And side by side into Raji is that of Travis Scott and VTEC as they make their way side by side. VTEC's going to get around the outside there, going through Raji. A bold place to make one happen, and he's done just that. And now going through the Lesmo corners, Mack is within a couple of tenths here. Gunnar Addy in this battle as well. Neat little train of cars forming here. But atop the grid, Scornsy within a tenth and a half of Mackie. At least that was getting in towards Ascari as they make their way out. Mackie has pulled ahead of the Aston Martin here. And I thought last time Scornsy probably could have had a fair shot going into the first corner. He's chosen not to make that move. He's chosen to play it cleanly and safely for now. Whether he chooses to keep it that way or not, we'll have to wait and see. Plums now is going to try around the outside of Travis Scott. Going through Parabolica, does he get it? Travis Scott will break, I think, a little bit earlier than he has to there. And Plums, if he's able to hold it around the outside, will do well, and I think he has. Back to the top of the grid. Scornsy looks to the inside. Not close enough to make something happen to Mackie. We keep going back now. It's Mack getting around Travis Scott. Gunnar getting around Travis Scott as well. The Alfa Romeo not having DRS. And a bit of a gaggle of cars here getting into the first corner. And, oh, that's a lot of contact there with Mack. And I think, is that the Plums? Yes, it is. Several cars making contact with each other going through the first corner. We've got a jumble of positions happening there. Nicky 64 up to 9th. Travis Scott down to 14th. And now as they try to resort themselves out, I mean, this is like going down any given highway on a Sunday. Just massive traffic here as they try to sort themselves out, and I think they finally have, but contact through the first corner there with Mack and the Plums kind of made that one happen. Just a lot of, well, argy-bargy to say the least. Nothing really negligent by any of the drivers involved. I just think when you're in that position where you got that good enough of a run, you know, on the drivers, you are tempted to make something happen. I think he's got himself in a good position. I don't know if the Ferraris maybe just turned into him there or what the deal is. Gunner's up 9 positions here. He's doing well. Race day, and sorry, Edwin and Palmer side by side here. Edwin will get around the Alpine in question, and well, they're both going to get DRS. Race day will have it as well, I think, to Scornsy ahead, as now we got 3 cars going for that third spot. They're currently occupied by the McLaren. You know, what's worrying me is the fact that Mackie is still not pulling away here from Scornsy. I would assume that's a premium operating window for those soft tires are probably well and gone now. So Mackie, I would believe, at a disadvantage here as well as Race Day. And I tell you what, Race Day nearly had to defend from Edwin looking down the inside going in towards the Raggia corners. Thankfully, Edwin kind of backed out of that one. But as they make their way through the Lesmos now, still very close. Chuck Blazin and Shariah Coleslaw side by side making their way to Raggia now. Does Shariah Coleslaw stay ahead of the Alpine in question here? Yes, he does. Great move from Shariah Coleslaw. Only one of the second or third one we've seen through that corner today, the first one being VTech just a couple of laps ago. About to begin the 7th lap of the Grand Prix. We've got ourselves quite the gap here amongst the top 5, and then 10 seconds behind is that of the Haas of VTech. And I think maybe was that due to the conundrums that they had going through the chicane last time by. It very well could be the case. But now we do have a 3-car battle for this 3rd spot. Race day not in a good position here, not with DRS, and on older soft tires now, which will surely not help him very much. Oh, look at this, the speed by Palmer down to the inside. Does he get both of them? This will be the reason why he's atop the championship standings, and he's getting into it there with Edwin. Contact being made, and he'll at least get race day. He nearly had Edwin as well. So a great move there. Unfortunately, race day losing 2 spots in the process, but great there from Edwin. And now Palmer to the left side. And could he get Edwin even before they get to Rajah? Yes, he does. And so Palmer taking 3rd. We do now have Chuck Blazin. I think he's had a slow getaway coming out of the chicane there. He's lost at least 2 spots in the process. So as the leaders exit the 2nd Lesmo, Mackey is still only half a second ahead of Scornsey. Not really good enough to make me believe that the soft tires were worth going on here. Race day, I'd say what nearly had a look at Edwin there around the right side, but has chosen to back out of the position. Again, not many moves are going to be made heading into Ascari like that. Maybe on the final lap of the Grand Prix if you need to, but you're more apt to see one going through Parabolica than that. That's why I kind of believe that DRS should be activated heading into Parabolica, but not the case. So once again, a 3-car battle for the 3rd spot. Now I'm looking at Scornsey here, 0.5 of a second and closing. DRS going for the Aston Martin. Will he have the ability to overtake Mackey into the first corner? He's going to look way down to the inside, and he's going to come up just a little bit short. Edwin down to the inside, gets Palmer. Race day looks forward as well, still to the inside of the Alpine here, and I think Race day, if he gets enough traction around the outside, he'll have position, and he does. So Race day back up to 4th. At least can claw one back there. Nicely done. We'll go down the pit straight now as we got several moves being made. Houdini getting around Shariah. Caesar trying to find the inside of Shariah as well. This is side by side going through the chicane. I think maybe some contact there with the Red Bull, and Caesar's gone wide going through the chicane. He's lost it to Chuck Blazin and to Travis Scott now, and maybe to the Haas of Mack. Yeah, Caesar has lost about 4 positions there, just kind of by existing. Again, perhaps was their contact with that of Shariah. It didn't really look as if there was that much, but again, the camera angle probably wasn't the best to see it. So exiting Ascari, still 4.5 of a second the gap. And oh, look at this. Well, I was thinking a move was being made. Edwin has made a hash of Ascari and has lost the position to both Race Day and Palmer. I'm not really sure what's going on with Edwin, if it was just a pure mistake. But Nicky has gotten around genuinely through Ascari over that of VTech for the 6th spot. A shame that we missed that one, but back on with the battle for 3rd now. Actually, we'll ignore that in a virtual safety car on track. I was going to ignore it, but just because Scornsey was looking like he was going to make a move there on Mackey, but the virtual safety car has come out relatively, I mean, right before Scornsey would have had no opportunity to overtake the Williams, and I'm just curious what it's for. Shariah has lost the entirety of her front wing, and I'm not sure where he's done that. But Shariah missing the front wing. Into the pit lane coming several drivers now. VTech, Scavney, Dusty, Houdini, Chuck Blazin, Mac, Shariah, and the Plums all making the stop here. And we're back to green flag racing. That may hurt a lot of those drivers who did pit. Mackey still leads. As a matter of fact, he's pulled out a couple of tenths here over Scornsey since the end of the virtual safety car. Race day has fallen behind the top 2 significantly here. Bit of a wiggle coming out of the 2nd Lesmo. Down the straight they go, heading towards Ascari. It's 0.3 of a second here between Scornsey and Mackey, and I'm thinking we may see those drivers who started on the softs come in here rather shortly. Matter of fact, I'm thinking some of the guys in the mediums might look to have this happen as well. We'll have to wait and see. We now have a good amount of drivers on different strategies than those initially at the top of the grid. We'll have to wait and see. The leaders do decide to stay out. Does Race Day choose to come in? No. Palmer in pursuit here. Actually, Edwin as well. 3-car battle once more as Caesar retires going through Ascari, and it's only a virtual safety car on track. And the second virtual safety car in 2 laps, and I'm afraid Caesar has lost the car coming out of Ascari. Similar to what we saw, I believe it was Cynical have earlier on in the Grand Prix in our second virtual safety car of the day. And this one is going to be upgraded to the full safety cars. You can see the yellow dot on your screen there going down the pit straight in the bottom right-hand corner. Full safety car on track. So Mackey, Scornsey, Palmer, Edwin. And I guess Race Day did end up losing at least a spot there. Nikki, I think, either came in during the no, Nikki has yet to come in here. So VTech has chosen to stay out as well. We're getting any of those who didn't pit under the last virtual safety car in now, which is going to mean everybody except the top 6 drivers, who I'm assuming is going to be coming in at the end of this lap. So what I really thought was that Mackey was going to have himself a bit of a tricky situation here. What he's got now is an ability to take, I would believe, the outright lead of this Grand Prix once strategies are applied here. Because again, I think he had these yellow flags not come out, I think realistically Mackey was going to be pitting at the end of this lap here and was going to be on the back end of the strategy. That's not the case now. He controls the grid on strategy. And let's see what he chooses to do. I'm assuming the hard tires. Scornsey probably the hards as well. I'm assuming any of these guys yet to come in here to the hards. Nikki maybe to the mediums. It's going to be one hell of a task to take the mediums that long. But as expected, Mackey comes in, Scornsey comes in, Palmer, Edwin, and Race Day come in. And Nikki, I'm assuming, is going to come in here, although I could be wrong. He's got the time to stop, and he does. Sui has a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car, the first penalty of the day. We do have Race Day taking the mediums, Mackey taking the mediums as well. So soft to medium for both Mackey and Race Day. It's going to be one heck of a task to try to stay on the mediums that long. I think going to the hards was probably the safer bet, but that is not what they've chosen to do here. Safety car on track for the first time of the day. We've had the initial virtual safety car, which we just had not long ago, and then this safety car, which is initially a virtual safety car. It's been upgraded. As Nikki does come in, he will end up losing the spot to VTech on a battle coming out of the pit lane. And now, I mean, this grid, relatively even tire strategies, although we are now having, oh, this is interesting, we've got Plums and Mac on the way into the pit lane here. They fulfilled their stop on the on the second required compound, and now, well, it's actually just an additional set of mediums going on for Mac here. That's a little odd. So he stopped twice for medium tires. That's a bit of an odd decision. That I was thinking he was going to go probably back to the hard tires. You know, he's done his one required, change to a different compound, and then he was going to come back out on track. That's actually not what he's done. He's just stopped for the mediums again, which is odd. So again, Mackey in a really good position here, being on the medium tires now. The delta between the softs and the mediums was not that much. Mediums to hards, that's going to be a different story. Mackey will get away here. And he will, I don't want to say cruise to the finish, but I tell you what, having the majority of the grid on hards behind him, if Mackey gets away well enough, this one could be over when it restarts here. Again, 4 wins consecutively for Mackey. I mean, I've only ever seen a Grand Prix driver do that one other time, and that was in the CCRL for Guzman did that. Last week in Qatar, the week before that in Japan, the week before that in the Netherlands, the week before that, going back to round 3 in Australia. I mean, craziness. Oh, and by the way, I'll be back with Division 1 here next time out in Miami, with Brazil, as well as Miami, actually, the round after that. So the final of my 4 treks to Division 1 this year, coming in these next couple of rounds. So hope to see you once again. I've thoroughly enjoyed the racing brought by Division 1 so far this season. And I can't wait for next week, and even Miami. I tell you what, we don't give Miami enough credit. These drivers can make any circuit a good one for racing, that's for sure. Well, I was going to say the safety car in this time by. I don't think that's going to be the case here unless it chooses to come in after they go through Ascari. There's the Sector 3 line now, and the safety car still hasn't decided to come in. Maybe it will as after everybody gets through Ascari. That's probably my guess. You know, it kind of does that in Vegas once they all get through the Planet Hollywood final corners, or the left, right, and left flicks there. And it looks as if we're going to have the safety car for one more lap. Which, matter of fact, we had a funny one in CCRL yesterday. So it's about 5 laps to go. We've got ourselves a safety car on track. Safety car gives us the message that'll be in at the end of the lap. And it just stays out one more time. The car had pulled away, missed the pit lane entry, and you know, had kept driving and had, like, stayed out on track and picked the field up again, going through the sphere corners. One of the oddest scenarios that I had seen. That race is on my channel. Matter of fact, every race I cast is on my channel pretty much. I mean, it has to be said. But hey, if you have perhaps a prediction for this race, why don't you drop it in the comments now, like and subscribe, do whatever the hell you want, even dislike if you have to. I'm not going to complain. Houdini has apparently left the session. That car will now be piloted by the AI, which is unfortunate for him. That's never something you want to see happen. I mean, that just gives you such a disadvantage. Thankfully, for the time being, he's under safety car, so he may, you know, be able to get around that. But still, if he doesn't get back in here within the next, 30 seconds, that one may not be helpful to him. Actually, matter of fact, let me see if I can try to invite him. Oh, there he is. Okay, very good. So making their way into Ascari now. I'm going to go ahead and assume the safety car is going to be in this time by... Oh, good guess. So, in case you're just joining us here, 6 drivers choose the mediums, the rest choose the hards. Crucially, Mackie, who started on the softs, is now going to try to go the long game on the medium tire. That is a very risky strategy, but it was also a risk choosing the softs off the beginning. Now, again, the delta between the softs and the mediums was not appearing to be all that much. Between the mediums and hards, that's going to be a different story. If Mackie gets away here, he may just get away permanently, has to be said, and make it 5 rounds in a row, race winning here in Division 1, which is a feat just simply unheard of. We do have Sui with a drive-through penalty for speeding into the safety car, but here we go. Through Parabolica now. Scornsy will have to get away well, and, well, he just simply doesn't. Mackie's got a 7, almost 8/10 of a second advantage of him. By the time they even get around Parabolica and now is across the line, Palmer will immediately go down to the inside. Edwin will follow. Scornsy losing 2 spots early, and now side by side is Palmer and Edwin into the first corner. Battle for the second spot. Edwin gets both of them, and will now get the second spot. Nicely done for the Mercedes driver there. Race Day gets around Scornsy, back up to 4th. Race Day has not had a good beginning into the Grand Prix, but he's got a chance now to right the wrongs. Again, it was just the one mistake by Race Day in the opening. And that had relegated him to the 4th spot. And that guy was right quick, and I think he still is. Can he perhaps find a way around Palmer and Edwin? Again, Race Day needs a good result here. He can firmly, you know, kind of cement himself in the championship battle if he can just get a good result here. Top 5 won't do. That's just the bottom line. He's got his 4 other championship contenders in that picture with him in this top 5. He needs at least a podium, I would think, to really put him in the mix. And as we go to Sao Paulo next week, I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a track that suits him or not, but we're certainly going to see some action. And Race Day is definitely going to have a bit of a task if he does not get a good one today. Palmer now, does he have a look down to the inside of Edwin? No, it's not going to happen this time. As they exit Parabolica, Mackie has already nearly a 2-second gap, and unfortunately, for the spirit of racing, my prediction has come true. Mackie's gotten away so well, as down to the inside goes Palmer around the left side, and he's made that one happen, although Edwin is still right there, and now Race Day looking to get in this as well. Race Day down to the inside. Oh, is he going to be able to get in there with the Mercedes? It's going to be so close. Lots of contact being made. A fair effort from Race Day, but now around the left side, around the outside of Curva Grande is going to be that of Scornsy. And will the Aston Martin keep the outside? Very good battle here amongst the top 5. Everything you'd hope and expect in Division 1. You got Cynical and Travis Scott battling it out behind. But unfortunately, well, I keep saying unfortunately. I'm being unnecessarily harsh to Mackie here. He's doing well. He's absolutely deserving the advantages he's given, he's taken here. But, you know, it has to be said, for the spirit of racing, I mean, I was really hoping someone was going to pressure him off the start here. That's just not been the case. We do have Mack and Travis Scott battling now. I think Mack has actually gone down the inside through the Lesmo. To make that one happen, Chuck Blazin will get around the Plums. That's even before they get to Ascari. So down the back straight they go towards Parabolica. Again, it's about, you know, a second and a half between positions 3 through 5. Mind you, VTech is trying to poke its head in on this battle as well. DRS is enabled, so they'll get that coming out of the second Lesmo this time by. VTech, for the time being, behind by a second here, and he's just not quite getting back into this window of challenging the drivers battling for the podium. He is right there, and I think on pace he's quite even, but he's had to use a lot of battery here. Matter of fact, Edwin is some of the lowest amongst this battle for the second spot. Race day saved up quite nicely. Scornsey's still at a halfway decent percentage. I would argue that for Edwin as well. And Palmer, actually, now that I say it, has kind of conserved a little bit more. Plums into the grass as behind Shariah and Travis Scott side by side. And I don't know what's happened with the Plums, why he's had to go off track. Shariah will now go down to the inside of Mack. And, well, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. That he's tried to go down the inside into the Rajya chicane. I'm afraid he's taken too much of the curve on the inside, and that is a very cut and dry 3-second penalty. That, unfortunate for Shariah, only the second driver of the day to pick up a penalty. Nicky does get around VTech on the way into Ascari. We only just caught along with that one. Looked to be a great move there. We do now have race day within 0.2 of a second of Scornsey here, as the battle for the second spot only getting bigger. And the other thing getting bigger is that of Mackie in that gap from first to second, 2.5 seconds now. And now this next time by will be 10 laps to go left in this Italian Grand Prix. There goes Edwin down to the inside, gets Palmer before they get to the corner, and Palmer only losing the one spot there as Race Day and Scornsey side by side behind going through the chicane. Last time that happened, you could argue that Race Day had gotten pushed wide by Scornsey. Well, I say pushed wide. It was a very even battle, but this time without any contact, Race Day gets around the outside of the Aston Martin in question. Palmer nearly has a look at Edwin here going into Rajia. That's a little odd. I say odd again. We're not seeing very many moves made in that section of the track, as you know, we typically don't. But we have seen a couple of moves made through Ascari, which is surprising. Through the Lesmos now, still pretty even for the time being. Nicky 64 has gotten overtaken from VTech. Remember, he had made that move into Ascari last time by. He's since lost the position here to the Haas driver. Down the backstretch they go. We'll check with that in a minute. Palmer nearly has a look to the inside of Edwin there. Not quite. Edwin now at the 3-second gap between between Mackie and Edwin here, as Palmer's going to look to the inside. He's not quite going to have the room to make it happen, but behind Nicky 64 and VTech side by side, and Nicky's going to back out of it for the time being. Battle once again for the second spot now. Down the pit straight they go. Race Day in pursuit. Edwin does not have DRS. Palmer tries the outside. Race Day will try to follow suit. No, Race Day's going to try the inside, and Race Day, does he get both of them? Oh, and I think, yeah, he's going to have to give at least some of those spots back. No? I don't know, man. He really tried to go late on the brakes and get around both Palmer and Edwin there. That would have been an overtake for the ages, one of the best that we've ever seen, as Mack, okay, that's just in the pit lane, thankfully. But, well, I say thankfully, unfortunately for Mack, he's that day's gone from bad to worse for him very quickly. Race Day nearly had one of the greatest overtakes I've ever seen. Unfortunately, he's just come up short. He could have, I think, hit the brakes a little bit earlier. And I think that would have allowed him to kind of stay on track. He had gone through the chicane for the braking zone he had. I don't think he even picked up he probably picked up a warning for it, but he didn't pick up a penalty for it, which is key. But I'm sure he'll have another opportunity here shortly. As down the backstretch they go, heading towards Parabolica once again here, within 10 laps to go. Mackie has a 4.5-second advantage over Palmer. Travis Scott, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. That is, I believe, going out of Ascari. Unfortunate for him, Chuck Blazin will get around Houdini there. Palmer's actually gotten away a little bit better out of Parabolica. Edwin's going to be under pressure here. He's going to try to look to the inside, maybe try to break the toe from Raystate. It's not quite going to happen. Now we have a yellow flag. Plums has spun the car going through Parabolica, I'm afraid. Houdini and Chuck Blazin one more time will get around the Alpine in question. VTech within a couple of tenths of Dusty. It looks as if VTech has either lost that spot to the Ferrari or Nicky has started to pull ahead here. I think Dusty's just taken that spot as VTech has fallen to 8th somewhere along the lines. Currently driver of the day, I would argue still, belongs to Gunnar, up 7 spots here. But I think if Dusty can improve even once more, I would argue he's done even better. I mean, the quality in the top half of the grid compared to the back half of the grid. I mean, again, we've got former champions, we've got current championship contenders, all in that battle. And now, VTech down to the inside. Does he get Dusty? Yes, he does. Into Ascari, and, well, again, very unorthodox place to make it happen, but VTech has done just that. Making their way through Parabolica now. Edwin this time is within a couple of tenths of Palmer. Definitely at a better place than he was last time by. Raceday is trying to look for this one as well. Edwin will look down to the inside. I think he's going to get this one well before they get to the chicane. Palmer will choose to defend the inside line. He's not going to have any pressure from Raceday this time. Scornsy and Raceday kind of holding position 4th and 5th. Dusty will outbrake VTech there going through the first couple of corners, and the Ferrari will take back the spot. Looks as if perhaps did the two AlphaTauris kind of invert position here. Are they doing that now? And yep, Scavney will get around Gunnar. Good team play there from the AlphaTauris. I'm not actually sure which one is quicker out of the two, but either way, that's the choice they've made. VTech getting into the back end of Dusty. All the while, Nicky has pulled away to over a 3-second advantage, which not long ago, VTech was battling with Nicky for this 6th spot. Now, Nicky's pulled away, and it's Dusty versus VTech for 7th. Back along with a battle for 2nd place here. I tell you what, these guys are probably hoping for a safety car here relatively shortly, because if they don't get it, as down the straight in towards Ascari they go. VTech has gotten the spot over Dusty one more time. Tell you what, these guys here, this little gaggle of cars from 2nd to 5th, definitely hoping for a safety car here, because that will certainly help their cause. Down the pit straight they go. Edwin will lead them to the left side of the circuit. Does Palmer choose to look low? Yes, he does. Raceday looks. Won't have anything this time, but side by side are these two through the first corner. Edwin is the left side. Oh, I tell you what, he's gotten into Palmer there a little bit going through the corner. Really close side by side here. Oh, that's definite contact being made now. Raceday having to kind of back out. Still, I tell you what, we're talking about a safety car. It may happen between one of these 4 drivers, has to be said. Through the Rajia chicane they go. And now through the Lesmos, it's, I mean, what is this, less than a second and a half. Actually, matter of fact, pretty much less than half a second between these. Oh, and Chuck Blazin is retired, and there is the safety car that the drivers would have been hoping for. He's exited the Rajia chicane, he's hit the wall on the outside, and that is the safety car Mackie was dreading, and the rest of the grid we're praying for. And Travis Scott, a drive-through penalty for speeding to the safety car. Unfortunate for him, but now, what does Mackie decide to do? Surely he's going to be coming in here. Yes, he does. Most likely soft tires for the Williams. I would assume anybody pitting behind will also go to the softs. It'll be even Steven here amongst probably the entirety of the grid. Into the pits they go. Raceday, I think, may have even clipped the outside wall going into the pit lane there. Sorry, the pit wall on the left side. I think maybe just the slightest of contacts there. Softs for the Mercedes. Softs for the Alpine. Softs for the Aston Martin. And predictably, I think softs for the Williams as well. Raceday choosing the softs as well, naturally. Yep, soft tires up and down the grid. Gunnar coming in, Scavney coming in, double stack for the AlphaTauris. That may get problematic between the two. Soft for Houdini. Travis Scott, I think, has served as drive-through, perhaps. No, he has stayed out on track. Sui in the pit lane, Plum's on the way to the pit lane. Well, you wanted a fist fight at the end of the Grand Prix. You're going to get one here. A 16-way brawl for the win of the Grand Prix. All taking place on the soft tires, minus that of Travis Scott, naturally. But this time by, with 5 laps to go, I mean, we may be left with about 3 or 4 laps of true racing here to the end of the Grand Prix. I mean, this is going to be one heck of a fight to the finish here. Mackie has done so well. But now, instead of having Scornsy behind in that second spot, he'll have Edwin. Will Edwin be able to get away from the safety car better than Scornsy? Remember, Scornsy coming out of Parabolica onto the last safety car was already behind by 0.8 of a second by the time they actually got to the start-finish line once the safety car had come in. So I tell you what, Edwin will certainly have to pressure the Williams here. Palmer in pursuit, race day and Scornsy, top 5, battle for the win on the way. Travis Scott, of course, the drive-through penalty. Nicky 64, I would argue, in a very good position, maybe even to take a podium if some sort of carnage happens ahead of him. But Monza, being one of those tracks, does provide some of the best racing we see all season. As Travis Scott's going to pit here, although I don't believe that will actually let him serve his drive-through penalty. I think that will need to be made in racing condition. I think that's exactly what's happening. Well, it's a front wing going on. But that, again, will not serve the drive-through for Travis Scott. And I'm sure he's not going to be too happy with that. Of course, that is the rule. It's always been the rule. Probably always will be. But Travis Scott will go to P16. Well, at least he's on the softs now, but he still has the drive-through penalty to negate. His chances at a top 10 probably firmly over here. Shariah on a 3-second penalty. The only other time penalty of the day belonging to the Red Bull. He had gone too heavy over the apex going into the Rajah chicane. And, well, I don't think he's going to lose many positions here with that penalty, but I think he would, at least for his sake, would have liked to have been on level pegging with the drivers around him. So we got about 4.5 laps remaining here. Safety car will most likely be in at the end of this one, so we'll get 1, maybe 2 laps of DRS racing here. Up to the Sector 3 line now. Still the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo yet to bring themselves to the back of the grid. Maybe will the safety car stay out another lap? I hope not. And no, we won't. Safety car will choose to make its way in this time by. So, Edwin now has to be completely on his toes. Because Mackie, if you remember again, got away really well off the end of last safety car and will look to do it again. Mackie, 4 race wins in a row. Can he make this the 5th one? It's a feat very solemnly achieved here in Midwest, no matter what division you go in. And to do it in Division 1 of all divisions will make it that much sweeter. And now, through Parabolica, and Edwin is not falling victim to that one. He will look right up against the back end of Mackie here. Mackie has yet to choose to get away, and towards the pit lane. Oh, it's gotten very close, and Mackie's backed up Edwin, and Mackie actually does get away quite well. Down the pit straight they go. Race day looks to the inside of Palmer as they have 3 laps to go. Well, not 3 laps to go. 4 laps to go this time by. Race day to the inside. Will he look to get Palmer heavy over the inside curb? Can he hang it round the outside? It's going to be side-by-side contact made. Race day into the grass. I'm sure he won't be happy about that one. A big gaggle of cars now. VTEC trying to hang it round the outside of Scornsy here, trying to force his way into the top 5. VTEC blocks the outside. It'll have to be 3 wide into the Rajah chicane. Maybe contact between Race Day and Scornsy ahead. Race Day goes down the inside of the Aston Martin and gets the 5th spot. VTEC kind of hung out to dry there. Edwin has gotten away well, at least able to stay within view of the Williams here. Gott Palmer has not been so lucky. He's behind by a second now, as well as Race Day, having battled with Scornsy. So now, 1v1, mano-y-mano perhaps for the win of the Grand Prix. Edwin, it's a chance to improve for both himself and Mercedes. Edwin, by the way, 13th in the standings at 170 points. His teammate of Caesar out of the Grand Prix early. That Mercedes team not doing too hot in the Constructors, but they have a chance to improve today. And for Mackie, it's a chance to cement himself in immortality for 5 race wins in a row in Division 1, but here they go. It'll be 3 laps to go now. Down the pit straight, and Edwin down to the inside. No DRS active as well. Pure pace cemented and used by the Mercedes as they get into the first corner, and he gets the spot made. But Mackey will still have time to strike back at side-by-side between Cynical and VTech through the first corners here, and I think will Cynical get away better around the outside. He'll have the inside going through Curva Grande, and I think the Red Bull does get away better and will take the 6th spot. So Edwin up 5 positions. I think really if he wins today's Grand Prix, that will cement him as driver of the day, at least in my eyes. Gunner up 6, Houdini up 6. Good results for the both of them. But the question at hand is, do we now have a 3-car battle for the lead, as Palmer has gotten his way back within a second of Mackey here. So 3 cars within a second of each other here. Palmer kind of hanging behind. Mackey really trying to pressure Edwin here. I tell you what, some clouds beginning to form. I don't think we're in for any rain. That'd be something if we were. But down the backstretch towards Parabolica, they'll have 2 laps to go this time by, I believe. DRS will be opened this time, so they'll get it coming out of the second Lesmo on this next lap. Swee's gotten around Shariah Coleslaw for the 13th spot. Down the pit straight they go. Mackey looks to the inside. Edwin has the fastest lap, now taken by Palmer. And down the pit straight they go. Mackey will choose to stay in pursuit. We'll open the telemetry. I'm curious to see who is saving what amount of battery, and Mackey 70% or more. Race day getting down the inside of Scornsey through the first quarter. Will take 4th. And that will push Scornsey back to 5th. But again, I think Race Day really would like to get on the podium here. That would help him. And Mackey looking for the left side. Not going to have it. Palmer falling behind this. You can see, look how much of his energy store he is using. Bit of a desperation look here for Palmer. Although he is right on the edge of glory here if the 2 come together in front of him. That one's surely going to go in a compilation later, that quote. But anyways, exiting the second Lesmo now. DRS activated for Mackey. He's not going to have it this time, I don't think. It'd be a bit of a bold place, and he'd lose DRS going down the pit straight. And I think that's what Mackey's thinking here. He doesn't want to try to take that spot now. He'd rather wait going down the pit straight as they make their way through Ascari. That's a big wiggle for Palmer. He surely has lost time. VTech with another move going through Ascari. He's made several of those already today. Down the back straight they go for the penultimate time. In towards Parabolica for the penultimate time now. What does Mackey have? 70% battery. Palmer only 22. And Edwin using the last of his. Mackey will surely have to look to the inside now. Final lap of the Grand Prix underway. And Mackey has taken that one relatively easily. The lead of the Grand Prix. Scornsey getting around race day. But still, Edwin may have at least 1 or 2 more chances here to get around the Williams. But that Williams has gotten away so well. It'll be a move on the last lap that could cement 5 race wins in a row for the Williams driver here. Going through the Raggia chicane now. He's done well, and he's held that car as perfect as he's needed to all day long. And that gap now a second between the top 2. As Scornsey getting around race day, unfortunate for him in the start he had, really looked like he could have kept the lead. Kind of got overwhelmed with both Mackey and Scornsey trying to make moves, and had gone over the curb on the opening lap, and that has pretty much put that car and his day really to bed. I think maybe did he have floor damage from going heavily over the curb that many times out of Ascari for the final time. And Mackey, as he makes his way towards Parabolica corner now, it is immortality on the way for Mackey. It's a feat solemnly achieved again in any division here in Midwest, and when you do it in Division 1, it makes it that much sweeter. He wins Australia, he wins Zandvoort, he wins Japan, he wins Qatar, and now he wins Monza. Mackey, your winner today. Goodness me, I mean, again, unbelievable display from him, has to be said. This guy, he's become one of the greats now, hasn't he? You think of drivers who go on long winning streaks like that. I mean, Scornsey had a great one not all that long ago. Palmer even won 3 races at the beginning of season 11. Race day had taken 6 in season 9. Australia, Japan, Netherlands, Hungary, Azerbaijan, and Miami. He went on to win 8 that season. And Mackey has, I would say, he's put Division 1 on notice if he hadn't already. 5 wins in a row for the Mercedes driver. Or sorry, for the Williams driver. Either one. I think Mercedes, yeah, you know what I mean. It is Mercedes powered after all. I guess I'm not completely wrong. Well, after it's all said and done in Monza, bearing in mind that steward reports could be on the way, Mackey taking the win, his 5th in a row. Edwin 2nd, Palmer 3rd, Scorsese 4th, Race Day 5th, Cynical 6th, Vitek 7th, Nicky 8th, Dusty Lusky 9th, and 10th is Gunner. Rounding out the top 10, Scavney 11th, 12th is Ferrari of the Plums, 13th is Sweet, 14th Houdini, 15th Shariah, 16th Travis Scott. And unfortunately, Chuck Blazin on the way back. They did not finish the Grand Prix. And be sure to stick with us next time when we go to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Sao Paulo, Brazil for the 8th round of the season. I just want to do some statistical work at the moment. I want to see what the longest win streak is in Midwest F1. I believe the 6 of, what do you call it there? Okay, so Jacko in Season 3, Canada, Bahrain Short, Monaco, Silverstone, Russia, Spa, Baku. 7 rounds. Mind you, we did have that of Honda, Austria, Bahrain, Mexico, China, Baku, and Russia, and that was in Season 2. Yeah, Mackey has cemented himself in history now here in Midwest. Well, Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining in. We'll see you next time out in Brazil. Thank you for watching.